In this week's EV news, the Lords urge action on electric car misinformation in the UK press. Ford are to reignite the electric car demand with an affordable EV platform. The UK sells its millionth pure battery electric car after 20 years. And electric van maker Arrival enters administration with 170 jobs at risk. Welcome back to another EV News, where I bring you a selection of EV-related news stories from the UK and beyond. Did you know that 75% of people that watch videos on this channel aren't subscribed? If that's you, make sure you click the subscribe button today. It's free of charge, means you won't miss out on future videos, and it helps the channel grow. I'm a little bit out of sync with the upload schedule here, so we're catching back up. If you wonder why there's a sudden influx of these news videos, then that is why, and we'll be going back to weekly fairly shortly. Let's get into it, shall we? First up, the government must do more to counteract misinformation on electric vehicles published in parts of the UK press, a Lords inquiry has said. The Lords Climate Change Committee urged the government to build consumer confidence and push back against what it calls mistruths on range and cost. The government did not comment on this, but said £2 billion was committed to EVs. Baroness Parmenter, chair of the Climate Change Committee, told the BBC that government officials and other witnesses to the inquiry had reported reading disinformation on the subject in national newspapers. We have seen a concerted effort to scare people. We have seen articles saying that cars are catching fire, but had evidence that the fire risk is absolutely the same as petrol or diesel cars, she said. The Lords Committee did not single out any newspaper in particular, of course, but I think we've all got a pretty good idea of which publications are involved here. Let me know in the comments what you think about that one. Testifying before the committee, Richard Bruce, Director of Transport Decarbonisation at the Department for Transport, conceded that there was a problem. He said, "I do think there has been an impact from a concerted campaign of misinformation over the last 14 months that has been pushing consistent myths about EVs that people absorb, and it is then reflected in their appetite for purchasing EVs. There is an anti-EV story in the papers almost every day. Sometimes there are many stories, almost all of which are based on misconceptions and mistruths, unfortunately." Now, I don't think this is news to many people, if I'm honest. Some of the stuff in the press and beyond is just complete bollocks. I don't think there's any doubt about that. As well as tackling misinformation, the committee also called on the government to unlock funding more quickly for local authorities to install charging infrastructure. The Lords heard how local authorities had to wait 8 months to have their applications processed for the on-street residential charge point scheme. Do I think calling out this misinformation will make the slightest difference to how much it spreads and how much it's perpetuated in the media? No, not really. These misinformation campaigns are big and they seem very well funded. But do I think it might have an impact to some people, and do I think it's an issue that definitely warrants calling out? Yes, absolutely. And I hope that these proposed improvements to the on-street residential charging scheme are carried out as well, right? Local authorities getting quicker access to funding will mean chargers will get rolled out faster. Let me know what you think in the comments though. Next up, a secret team of Ford engineers have been working for 2 years on a new platform for affordable electric cars, company CEO Jim Farley has revealed. Speaking as the company revealed its fourth quarter results for 2023, Farley said the company is adjusting our capital, switching focus onto smaller EV products. He added that this is important because we made a bet in silence 2 years ago. We developed a super talented skunkworks team to create a low-cost EV platform. It was a small group, a small team, some of the best EV engineers in the world, and it was separate from the Ford mothership. It was a startup. Investment in higher volume, lower cost electric cars, likely destined to serve as indirect successors to the likes of the Fiesta and the Focus, comes in response to Ford finding that most buyers are unwilling to pay over the odds to go electric. In the UK, Ford only sells one electric car at the moment, the Mustang Mach-E. However, it will soon follow that up with a new Explorer, as well as a new Capri and the electric version of the Puma. Will we see smaller, more affordable models from Ford in the near future? I certainly hope so. We need something that embodies the spirit of the Fiesta, And I think that would take the EV market by storm, a rival to the upcoming Citroen EC3, which I think is going to be very, very popular indeed, would be very, very welcome. Now it's used bargain of the week time, where I show you something heavily discounted from AutoTrader that has caught my eye. And well, after that story about Ford, I went in search of the Mustang Mach-E. And I was surprised, but absolutely not disappointed, to find you can get into one for less than £25,000 now. A 2021-21 reg standard range with a 75 kWh battery. EV Database reckons it has a combined real range of 225 miles, although I must admit I'm pretty unfamiliar with them. Seems like a lot of car for the money though, given it was over £40,000 when it was new just a couple of years ago. Let me know what you think in the comments. Does a sub 25 grand Mustang Mach-E tempt you, or is it just not enough of a Mustang for you to bother with? The number of pure battery electric cars sold in the UK has passed 1 million, a milestone that reflects the rapid shift away from polluting fossil fuels that is crucial to Britain's target to produce net zero carbon emissions. Between 2002 and the end of January, buyers registered 1,001,677 of the vehicles in the UK, according to data from the SMMT, of course. And while it has taken 20 years to sell 1 million electric cars, or more than 120 years if taken into account the very first battery electric vehicles, the lobby group said it is possible the industry could sell that second million within only 2 years, as car makers around the world raced to dominate the electric vehicle industry. Car makers sold 20,900 electric cars in January, up by 21% on the same month in 2023. However, the sales were heavily dependent on company fleets, which receive indirect subsidies. Sales to private buyers fell by a quarter. This is talked about a lot. Private buyers aren't buying EVs. Oh my god, how awful. But I think it fails to take into account two things. Lots of private buyers now have access to salary sacrifice schemes, and with the current company car tax rates, it's an absolute no-brainer over buying one with your own money. And lots of private buyers who don't have access to those schemes will buy used, given you can buy one for a massive discount. SMMT are of course asking government for VAT reductions and other subsidies, which we talked about in previous videos. I don't think we need to go over old ground on that, because I think I've put the world to rights on what I think at least about those issues in the past. Let me know what you think in the comments. How long do you think it'll take the UK to sell its second million EVs? And finally, some sad news from British EV startup Arrival, which has collapsed into administration with 170 jobs at risk, just 3 years after it was valued at more than $15 billion. The company, which has 2 manufacturing sites in Oxfordshire, has appointed consultancy firm EY as administrator after failing to launch its debut electric van. The move comes a week after trading in the company's shares was suspended on New York's Nasdaq stock exchange, and a notification that the firm would be removed from the exchange was filed. Nasdaq said that Arrival had not complied with its listing standards after failing to file accounts for 2022. The EY administrators said that Arrival's liquidity position had been impacted by challenging market and macroeconomic conditions, resulting in delays in getting the group's products to market. Arrival spent heavily on robot-heavy factories in Banbury and Bicester, and planned to launch a bus, car and European van. It later cut 800 jobs in the UK and switched its strategy to focus on the US van market. The company now has 400 staff, of which 172 are in the UK and are directly affected by this administration. It recently made 39 staff redundant and has struggled to keep a handle on costs, according to the Financial Times. The company received a $660 million cash injection when it listed in the stock market in 2021 and was valued at more than $15 billion on the Nasdaq at its height. Another overvalued startup goes under. It's not hugely surprising, but of course it is terrible news for any of the staff that have been affected. But that is it for this week's EV news. Make sure you let me know what you think about any or all of these stories in the comments. That discussion that kicks off in the comments is always very interesting. Make sure you subscribe with notifications turned on so you don't miss out on the next video, and I'd really appreciate it if you click that like button as well. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you next time.